Good morning, real estate investors, and welcome to the Art of the Slow Flip podcast. I am today having two guests on that I am excited to share with you. So the first one is Emmanuel Staffelidis. Did I say that right?
That's good.
And Kaaren Hall. I wanted to say Kaaren, but
I
it's
know.
Kaaren Hall, who is the founder of UDirect IRA with over 2 decades of experience with IRA investing and setting up self-directed IRA. So I am excited to have you on because we have so much we need to learn. So welcome aboard. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
So I got it. Before we even get into what it is you do, how did you get started in the IRA business?
Yeah, well, I like to say that when I was a little girl, I dreamed of self-directing IRAs, and then I just made it happen.
Yeah.
Okay, seriously. I mean, IRAs have been around since 1975, so yeah, that's when IRAs were created. But no, I mean, I've had a couple of careers, including a lot of experience in real estate, property management, loan servicing, loan origination, which made the perfect transition during the Great Recession into self-directed IRAs. So that's kind of my career path.
Nice. So you did loan servicing as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. Do you still have a loan servicing company or you just do the IRAs now?
I just do the IRAs. Yeah. So
Okay.
the loan servicing, I was in my 20s, so I didn't own the company, but we called it cleaning up after the elephant. Like after the loans originated, what did the loan officer promise you? And then we would clean that up.
Yeah, none of that's going to happen, but this is what the reality is.
Correct.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. So I'm curious on two fronts with what you do, and the reason I say two fronts is on front number one, I'm interested in self-directed IRAs as a way to obviously have an IRA and do lending through it or do investing through it. But on the second front is for other people that have self-directed IRAs for teaching them how to do either lending or investing through their IRA. So I'm curious actually on both fronts. So if you don't mind, if we can start as if we have no knowledge of absolutely anything as to how this works, who's eligible for it, how does it work, and how does one even start the process?
Yeah, I mean, self-directed IRAs, once you know the rules, it's not difficult, but I think it's getting to know the rules, and you can't it's not something you just assume people know because we're not taught this. So the qualifying factor to have an IRA is simply to have active income from a job, okay, like active or whatever other active income, like flipping property could be active income, right? So that's the lowest barrier to entry. Typically, people who are self-directing their IRAs worked a couple of jobs, have some old employer plans that they're going to roll over, and then they find an asset that they're interested in, like maybe it's like a syndication, or maybe it's like investing in a flip or something like this, somebody else's deal, or coming up with their own deal. Like when I opened the company during the Great Recession, you could buy properties for $50K a pop or even less, as you may recall. That was crazy times. So people would definitely be buying whole houses with their IRA. Now, houses are more expensive. The market's changed, but you can still buy a whole house in your IRA, and that's still possible. So just to know that you open an account, then you get it funded by moving the money in, and then you invest. So that is easy. The difficult or the challenging part where you need to do your homework is to understand your asset. And so once you understand your asset, we say invest in what you know best. So once you really understand your asset, then you can self-direct, because this is precious money. It's hard to get the money in an IRA. Your contribution limits are capped every year. You don't want to take a big risk with your retirement dollars. So understand your asset. Once you've got that, once you've chosen the asset, we can help you take it from there and get the money into that deal. And then you're self-directing.
Can a person, and I'm asking stupid questions because I really don't know the answers. Can a person have more than one IRA?
That's an awesome question, because the IRS does not limit how many IRAs you can have, like literally infinity. There's no stop. But where there is a cap is how much you can contribute. And even if you say you have a traditional and a Roth IRA, you have both these IRAs, you can only, say you're under 50, you can only contribute $7,000 to both of them combined, not 7 and 7, but 7 for both of them combined. So each IRA has different rules, different contribution caps, slight nuances in each different IRA type.
I didn't realize it was 7,000 for both. I thought the Roth was just 7. The question I get asked all the time is that separation of the investment and keeping it at arm's length. That I can't explain it when I get asked, but I know it, I understand it, but I can't explain. Do you have plain English language on that?
I hope so. Let me do my best here. But it's your ascendants and descendants are disallowed people. So let's start there. So your parents and grandparents, you and your spouse,
And your
children and grandchildren, plus any 50-50 business partner or a fiduciary to the deal, like a realtor, CPA, attorney to the deal. Okay, are disallowed. Those are disallowed parties. So you keep arm's length from those people. Now that you know who you're keeping arm's length from, what that looks like is, for example, your IRA doesn't, for example, make a loan to your spouse so that they can open a business. That's not arm's length. Your IRA does not, again, with the loan, make a loan to your kids to send them to school. Your IRA does not invest with a disallowed person. That's not arm's length. That's too close. Another example would be if your IRA, say, bought a house, none of these disallowed people could live there or have personal benefits. Same thing with you. You could never even stay one night in that house. You couldn't have any personal benefit. And you can't offer what we call services to the plan, which means that you again, keep arm's length. You're not going to, be a decision maker. You can make some, okay, there's some fine points. We should maybe go granular on that one for a second.
But so you can't manage it yourself. You can't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go there then. So there was recently, this case where there's somebody, because investors are smart and you're always looking for a way to make it work, make the deal work, right? So somebody decided, hey, I'm managing my self-directed IRA properties. I deserve to pay myself a management fee. Well, you know what? The courts disagreed with them because that is personal benefit. It's a prohibited transaction. You're receiving personal benefit from your IRA. That said, there are things you can do that are kind of like property management without taking a fee, okay? So what you can do is screen the tenants, go to them and pick up and collect the rent check made payable to the IRA, send it into your IRA or the IRA that owns the asset. And you can hire third-party vendors to do the work. Like I own rental properties, and that's how I manage mine anyway. Like I'm not a construction expert, so I hire a construction expert if something needs to happen, for example. So I'm already hiring third-party vendors. It's no different than what I'm already doing, and that's the same is true for a lot of investors. So you can sort of property manage as long as you don't have personal benefit, and as long as your involvement isn't what. Now, this is fine lines, right? And I'm going deep, but as long as it's not considered an over contribution of sweat equity. What is that? Not defined, but you just keep it to those things and you're okay when you've got real estate and you want to manage it.
So I have a really stupid question, but something you just said made me think of it. And
Okay.
I'm thinking the answer is yes. Do IRAs get audited?
Sometimes some people get audited, tax returns get audited, and it's typical that the IRA is going to be part of an audit. And I've been audited, UDirect's been audited. And so when we were, God bless them, the auditor didn't know what a self-directed IRA was. I mean, imagine fully comprehending every page of the Internal Revenue Code.
Right. It's impossible, right?
Right. So they didn't understand it. So it's possible that, this is just how it works. But yes, an IRA can be audited. Yes. And I mean, what do we see in real life? We see sometimes neighbors turning each other in.
Right.
People and their kids.
Yeah, because I was thinking, because if your tax return got audited, it really doesn't have information of what's in your IRA in it, and that's why I was wondering if it got audited itself.
Yeah, it didn't used to. Okay, it didn't used to, but several years ago now, the IRS realized that they weren't asking what assets are in your IRA, so they changed, and then they said, okay, now, and this is going back a bit, maybe not quite 10 years ago, that now what you're going to do is when we file we send a 1099 and 5498 to the IRS, and now there's a code for what kind of asset is in the account. So the IRS does know what an asset is in your IRA. It didn't used to be the case, but it has been for a while.
Gotcha. Okay. So I have more questions on somebody setting up an IRA and using it themselves. Emmanuel has more questions on somebody that has one and wants to invest.
Okay.
And so I wanted to basically start with, if a person wanted to set one up to invest in it, this is, you mentioned something earlier, if you're up to 50, and I'm 51, I'm going to be 52 this month. So I'm curious, what's my limit? If you're over 50, how much can you put in a year?
Right. Once you turn 50, you are eligible for what's called a catch-up contribution. And so because you're closer to retirement, you can put in a little more to kind of catch up so you're more prepared. And so when you've got a traditional Roth or Roth IRA, it's $1,000. So for a traditional Roth IRA this year for 2025, instead of 7,000, it's 8,000. And each IRA type has its own, version of that.
Okay, gotcha. And so if somebody, they have to have a job or earned income somewhere, and
to
then
contribute.
And just to run me through the process, and then I'm going to let Emmanuel ask questions. But to run me through the process, if they wanted to invest, they don't. When it's self-directed, they don't actually have a checkbook. They would send it then to you or your company and say, "I have this investment I want to do," and then you guys cut the check, and then the proceeds go back to the company.
Yeah,
to be in their IRA.
That's so true, and you've just opened up, lots of questions that we could answer. But so first off, the checkbook IRA isn't a special IRA. Let's start there. What a checkbook IRA really is an LLC. It's a special purpose LLC. Okay, so we call it the IRA owned LLC, and that is an asset that the self-directed IRA acquires. Okay, so it's not a gift with purchase or anything. Just so we know that. So what was the question? I just got so lost.
So basically how it would work, if they wanted to invest in Emmanuel, they wouldn't actually cut him a check. They would send the request to your company, and your company then cuts the check.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's a 3-step process. To open the account, super easy. We have a digital application on our website. You just, click, type in, and 10, 15 minutes later, you've got an IRA. You've got access to our platform, and then your IRA is open. The second step is getting the money in, which you can do by contributing, which is money out of your own account. We talked about contribution limits. The other way is doing an IRA to IRA transfer. You can do that. Or if you have a previous employer plan, that's called a rollover, where you open the account, call your previous plan administrator, say, "Hey, move the money to my new IRA," and you give them your new account information, and they take a little longer than than if it's an IRA. The previous employer, that 401k plan, for example, they're going to move your money over. They'll send us a check, and it's a slower move of money than IRA to IRA transfer. But 3 ways to get the money in. So you've opened the account, you put the money in, and now you want to invest. So you give us the documentation, and that documentation is not going to say that you personally are the investor. It's going to say the IRA's name. So your custodian will tell you that, use this vesting. And then we review the documents. You submit them to us. We review them. And we're not looking to see if it's a good investment, if it makes sense. We're not approving it as an asset. We're just taking a look to make sure, hey, is this account holder getting an asset in exchange for this money? Is that what this says? Is it titled correctly? And, a couple of the things we're looking at. But with the self-directed IRA, the onus is always on the account holder to make sure that that you comply with the IRS and that there are no prohibited transactions and that sort of thing. So that's why we're always here, to take and to do, we give free consultations. Like, tell me about your asset. What are you doing? Who's involved? We're going to talk to you and make sure that we don't hear a prohibited transaction and try to give you a heads up. But you open, fund, invest is the short answer.
So I have 50 grand in an IRA, in a self-directed Roth IRA, and I invest into a property, and it returns me $200,000. Yeah. I don't pay any tax on that ever?
Well, you don't. So it is an IRA-owned asset. It goes, from the Roth into the deal. You got the proceeds, so now you've got $250,000 because it paid back. Now you got $250K sitting in your Roth. As long as you meet a couple of qualifying events. One is to be 59 and a half, and the other one is to have had a Roth IRA for 5 years. Those are the qualifying events. So you meet those 2 qualifying events, then yes, that money comes out tax-free. That's exactly right.
That sounds absolutely awesome. So before we were recording, you told me about a book that you recently put out. Can you tell us about that book and what's in it? And
I happen to have it right here. I wrote this in conjunction with Bigger Pockets, the Bigger Pockets Guide to Self-Directed IRA Investing. And what this is, it's not so much a storybook as it is a guidebook. It's a great reference. Like, oh, hey, what about the thing? And you look it up, and then it's got a nice glossary of terms and things. So it's a really good starter kit for the self-directed IRA.
Okay, fantastic. I read a lot, and I have not read that yet, so I'm going to put it on my list right now. I'm sure it's on Amazon. All the Bigger Pockets books are,
It
and
is.
yeah. So I'll actually order a copy of it today because I'm excited to learn more about it myself. Last question before I let Emmanuel ask you questions is: your company is called UDirect IRA. So what makes your company different? What's awesome about it? And tell me a little bit about that company.
Well, when we get 5-star reviews, they're always about, wow, it was so great. I called, I got somebody on the line. This person always knows what's going on with my deal. And they really like our fees too, which are very low for the industry. So our account holders get to keep more of what they're making, of what they're earning on their investment, better ROI. And of course, the customer service and the one-on-one. So when you open an account with us, we assign you someone based on the first letter of your last name. So you always talk to the same person, unless they're like on jury duty or something. So you've got a good a relationship, because now you've got the next deal comes up and you can talk to the same person again. And we have our staff has been with us, a lot of people for, more than 10 years. So that's nice. We've got longevity in the company.
All right, fantastic. That is good stuff. That's one of the things that, anywhere you go, anytime, I always say, I'm like, customer service is free. That's the one thing as a business owner, I said, you should have excellent customer service. It's free. And that sounds like exactly what you've done. Sometimes you go into places and I'm like, what are they doing? It costs the same. And that's the most important thing. So, all right. So that was what I wanted to ask on the other side of, somebody wants to have an IRA, invest in an IRA, and then do their investments. Emmanuel had more questions geared toward you already have an IRA and you want to lend. And so go ahead, Emmanuel.
It's kind of the next step. You've got an IRA and you want to invest. A lot of the questions that I had, you've already answered. But excuse me. But you commented on being not advising on the asset, but making sure that the transaction is compliant. And I've got a fund, and people invest with their IRAs into the fund, and there's this paperwork nightmare because we've got to get all the paperwork for the fund side. So they, you said 15 minutes, or they spend 15 minutes filling in everything and handing over driver's license and everything for the fund. And then they say, oh, my IRA is funding it. And you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. And, our administrators work with the IRA companies, and the IRA company is kind of in there. Have you got experience with that and seen people? Now, I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe before you answer that, you said you've been in the business 20 years. How old is UDirect, and how many customers and staff and that sort of stuff have you got? How big is UDirect?
Right. Well, we have over 1.1 billion under management. I opened the company in 2009, which is I had previous self-directed IRA experience before I opened the company, and we have we've opened tens of not tens of thousands. We've opened 10,000 accounts.
Wow.
And so yeah, we're not the biggest, but I think we're the best. So
of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I said we've got a fund, and you sort of shook your head like, yeah, I know
every day we do that.
Yeah, every day. All right. Yeah. Okay.
And really, when you think about a self-directed IRA, it doesn't have to be more difficult than a cash transaction in the sense that if someone already has their IRA opened, they've already put the money in that, move the money into it so that we can actually disperse, then all you do is give us the paperwork. I mean, you've got to create the paperwork for somebody where they're investing with, writing you a check from their personal checking account. And if they're going to do it with the self-directed IRA, if the money's already in the account, it shouldn't be extra work for you. It's just a different vesting, and you have a different vesting with every investor anyway. So it shouldn't be so difficult. You just give us the documentation, and then we review it, fund the deal, and then the money goes back to the IRA account, any proceeds.
Yeah, we've just made some major changes, and it was because of the IRAs to an administrator that, so we third party all our know your customer and the anti-money laundering and all of those onboarding things. We put all that to a third party because there's so much compliance. I don't want the responsibility of that. Yeah. And one of the driving factors was dealing with the IRA companies and just how easy it is to manage. And the company that I chose has a whole section set up purely for IRAs because it's generally, you know, a lot more work than dealing with the individual. But you're saying on your side that it's kind of straightforward and the same thing.
It doesn't have to be more difficult. So it doesn't have to be.
I really look forward to seeing that happen because that's a blessing in disguise. In doing some research, you did a podcast with Rich Summers.
Who now?
Rich Summers.
Oh, Rich, right. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't know if you've done one or more, but
one. But he cut it up into a lot of different reels. Yeah.
Is that what it was? Okay.
I know what you're going to ask me. Go ahead.
You know what I'm going to ask you?
Go ahead. Yeah, bring it
there
on.
Was well, maybe not. There was something about a 250K average, and most people make 4% out of that 200. And I was struggling with these numbers. I was like, if I'm making 4% out of my IRA, I've done something drastically wrong. Okay. But and of course, we pay a whole lot more than that, which makes me think that I'm overpaying my investors. But is the average self-directed IRA amount higher than the average IRA? So self-directed, do people with self-directed IRAs make more money generally than others? Or
I see.
Is there, what's going on there? What can you kind of explain?
Well, Rich was, looking on the interweb, and he found out, like, just in general, for 401ks in general, what's the average balance of a 401k? And that's what he was discussing. In other words, and typically the older you are, the higher the average. Like, older people have had more time. The older you are, the more time you've had to build your 401k. So it makes sense it would be a larger account. So I think with the self-directed IRA, it varies. Our average account size is about 150,000, right around there. So self-directed IRAs are not 401ks. 401ks are something else. So you could have a self-directed IRA, and you could have a couple of IRAs. So just because the one that you have with UDirect is 150 doesn't mean you don't have two other IRAs elsewhere. And so a 401k with an employer is not an IRA. It's a different kind of retirement account. An IRA is an individual retirement account, where a 401k is a company-sponsored kind of retirement plan. They're very similar, but they do have differences. So I think, Rich is just talking about how his point in the podcast was, how can you possibly retire on 250,000? And if you didn't just listen to the clip, if you listen to the whole thing, it's like you can't just retire on that. You have to have. I love to talk about this. Retirement isn't just your 401k; it's layers. Just like in our pre-retirement life, we want to have streams of income. So in retirement, you've got like Social Security, personal savings, maybe your 401k, maybe a self-directed IRA, and your personal assets, maybe life insurance, maybe an annuity. All these different kinds of assets can go into what you're building for your retirement. So it's not just a 401k, because often that isn't enough. And that was the point that Rich was making in the podcast.
Right. Okay.
Kaaren, what did you think he was going to ask when you said, "Oh, I know what you're going to ask"? What did you think he was going to ask?
Okay. So I talked about how when I was working for a different company in 2007, we had a young man who took his Roth IRA and invested in Super Bowl tickets. Oh my gosh. It's just people, that's silly, and she's crazy. And it's like, no. Now, a ticket is an asset. The Roth IRA purchased the asset, which is the tickets, the 2 tickets. He didn't use it personally. Otherwise, it would have been a prohibited transaction. Right. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is, it's not like he took the money out of his IRA, had it personally, put it in his own checking account, and then went and bought the tickets with personal dollars. He didn't do that. It's just like when, say, for example, your typical IRA acquires an interest in a mutual fund. You don't take the money out of your IRA and go invest in a mutual fund. It just goes straight from the retirement account to the asset. So that's what happened. So basically the retirement account acquired an asset. That asset happened to be Super Bowl tickets. Okay. And he sold them at a profit. He didn't have personal use, and the profit went back in his Roth IRA. Now, that was a while ago. Since that time, since 2007, I mean, that was kind of the Wild West too, where a lot of self-directed IRA custodians just said, hey, look, it's self-directed, it's an asset, whatever, it's self-directed. We can't tell you what to invest in. That's not our role. So if that's what you want to do, and it's not life insurance contracts and it's not collectibles, do it. That's been the attitude of a lot of self-directed IRA custodians in the past, but regulators want us to be more responsible than that. So things have changed. There are still some self-directed IRA companies that would take an asset like that, but not every one. So every single self-directed IRA company gets to do what they call deciding what's administratively feasible, whether or not they'll take an asset. So just that's what I thought you were going to ask me, and that's the answer.
I did see that clip. I did see that, and at the time, I just looked at it and went, "That's smart." I thought that was really good.
Yeah, people are going bananas, making comments, and it's so fun to. Oh my gosh, they have.
I'm sure it is crazy, but in theory, you buy them for $1,000 and you sell them for, $200 a game or something, and the money comes back in. It's rent. You're renting the space, aren't you? I thought it was genius. But it does lead into my next question, which is, I'm sure you're going to say real estate, but you may not. What do most people invest in? What do they look at with a self-directed IRA? What's the most common type of investments? And do you have any information on what's successful? What has worked really well for people?
Well, I'll answer your question. Real estate is almost always the underlying asset. Okay, so but the number one asset class as an industry look at it is syndications. A Reg A, B, C, D offering, something that the SEC approved. They said you can go raise capital. You've got our blessing, right? Yeah. A syndication is the number one asset for a self-directed IRA, but the underlying asset to that is, multifamily, maybe mobile home park or self-storage or something like that, or a strip mall. So syndications is number one, with real estate being the underlying. The other thing is maybe a note, but what is it a note on? It's usually a note on real estate. It's usually a note secured by real estate is very common. But people will make secured and unsecured loans to one another. In fact, after the Great Recession, after the COVID shutdown, when businesses were trying to gain traction again, self-directed IRAs oftentimes could come to the rescue and give those small business owners, a loan or invest as an equity partner in that business and help boost, bring that business back to life after a black swan event. Like, we've had a couple in our lifetimes. So,
yeah. Yeah, well, that just answered my next question. Is loaning very popular? Because that's what most people invest. Scott would attend to it if would agree. Most people loan to us. Now that I've got, as I've said so many times already in this, the fund, they're actually investing as opposed to loaning. But before that, it was all loans. They were giving us a loan. We were writing out, mortgage documents and things and providing those back to the IRA custodian. That was all being filed. And so we saw it as very popular. But when you look at the greater, population, you're like, we like 0.5% of the population doing this, or most of it. I had no idea. So it's very interesting.
So many people have no idea. And here's the thing. This is the 50th anniversary of the IRA. Okay, this year, wow. 50 years. Wow. A self-directed IRA and a typical IRA are essentially the exact same thing. The rules are the same, everything. The only difference is what asset you can hold in that IRA bucket, right? That's the only difference between a typical IRA and a self-directed IRA. Self-directed IRAs, alternative assets, and it could be precious metals, crypto, syndications, notes. You can buy and you could buy performing and non-performing debt, alternative assets. That's what goes in a self-directed IRA. But an IRA, like the way the contribution limits, the way you take the money out, your RMDs when you're in your 70s, everything, all the rules are exactly the same. It's essentially the same animal.
Okay. So you understand it once, you understand it all, and then just follow the changes each year that the IRS puts out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my private lenders who does the slow flip loans, she does do it through an IRA. And it is I guess it's a tiny bit more work, but not really, because normally she does most of them through her own bank account, but then every now and then she'll say, the next two I'm doing through my IRA. The only real difference is instead of her wiring the money, then that whoever's doing the closing has to contact the IRA company and do it with them directly. I guess I feel it's different because I'm out of the loop on it. Normally I'm in the loop, and with that one I'm out of the loop and waiting to find out, is it done? But I guess she's doing exactly that. That's a self-directed IRA, since she's doing slow.
Yeah, and we have one of the things we've done over the past few years is create a business platform, and so it allows more of a digital experience for the account holder too. So they can submit docs online, and it's so much more streamlined than it was in the past, with scanning and faxing. Remember faxing?
Yeah.
and all that. So that you can just, if you've got you've got the forms that maybe it was, DocuSign or something, just zip them in. And so it's much more streamlined and digital than it ever was.
Fantastic.
So you're up to date with technology. You've got a fax machine now, don't you?
I have a fax machine. Yes.
You have a fax machine.
Yeah.
And a pager, so you could just page me.
You really have a pager?
No, I don't.
Oh, I was going to say I do have a fax machine, but I haven't had a pager in quite some time.
Right.
But
so I pay every month to somebody's self-directed IRA, and it was all set up electronically through the portal. It was log in and set up, and they sweep the money at the the end of the month, or the beginning of the month, or whatever. That sweeps out of my bank account, and I only remember every time I kind of look at the statements and think, oh yeah, I paid that to their IRA. And
it might be tax deductible. Ask your tax professional.
Yes.
So what do you think is the best ways to maximize an IRA? Or is it literally you don't get involved with that end? It's up to them to choose their investments and research them. So your end wouldn't be anything to do with that. You just know the max they can put in, and then they have to decide what they're putting it in.
Right, and maximizing them. You were asking me about which assets perform the best, and you can't answer that because every asset is different.
Super Bowl tickets, obviously.
Right, and of course, real estate. It's 1 minute, it's the best thing. The next minute, no, not today. It's all these assets, and the assets can also go bad, and they do. So I don't think there's a best asset. It's what's best for the account holder. It's what, as the actual self-directed IRA, owner, what's best for you, and what do you understand best? And did you do your research, and have you, done the math on your deal? So that's the answer to that. But I don't know. It's a great tool. I think that a way to maximize it, and like a good takeaway from this event, is just go make a contribution to your IRA, or your 401k or something. Contribute to your future. So invest in yourself by at least contributing, and then you've put money aside for later. And then to self-direct, it's to find the right asset class and then just pull the trigger. So
is it? I have an off-the-wall question. Is an IRA asset protected?
No, it can be. All right. So I'm in California.
So California, no, I know that, right? But
there's some fine lines here. It's not just it's not clear. So if you had 401k money and we call it, has an anti-alienation provision, that's what it's called, that an employer plan has, and that money moves over into an IRA, some of that asset protection may travel. And again, it depends on what state you live in. Each state is different on the way they treat asset protection with IRAs. For example, you may recall, O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
And how he moved to Florida, where he was able to have a homestead exemption,
right.
And he had his NFL pension, which was also had this anti-alienation provision. So it had this built-in, protection. So that's how that works. So it definitely want to discuss that with your attorney and check it out, and Google it and find out, because every state is a little different.
But we know Florida. OJ went there, so he obviously did the research.
And he had a pension. So
yeah, his pension and the state and the homestead exemption. He got it all together. All right. Well, it's already been 33 minutes. I don't want to keep you too long. Emmanuel, did you have more questions for her?
No, I'm all good. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a wealth of knowledge. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure it's not only going to help. It's helped me, but it'll certainly help a lot of people who listen. That's great.
But then I have the last question. If somebody does want to get in touch with you, want to set something up, want to find out how to do it, how do they find you? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, we're all over social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, the whole nine, and but the best way is info@UDirect IRA.com. And that email everyone on staff gets that email. So that's why we answer so quickly, because somebody's going to grab that and respond to you. And just, if you've got a question, if you want to set up a consultation, whatever you want to do, we can help you and answer your self-directed questions.
So that was info, I-N-F-O, info at UDirectIRA.com.
Exactly right.
Perfect. All right. Well, that is all I got for you today. Thank you very much for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. I know everybody always has questions. It's hard to believe you just said it's been 50 years and we still don't know what's going on. But I can't believe you have over $1 billion under management too, Roy. I guess you consider it management. That's a huge accomplishment. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.